Thank you very much for joining us today for the workshop Ancient India Meets Data Science. Sorry, that's right. Okay. The purpose of this workshop is to report on the result of our project, chronological and geographical features of ancient Indian literature explored by data-driven science, and to share our perspectives and challenges for the new one, a study of language layers in Vedic literature for the development of a program for age estimation that is collaborated with Oliver Helwig's project from BMM. These projects focus on the Vedic literature of ancient India, approximately 15th to 5th century BCE, and aim to clarify the process and background of its production using data science and digital humanities method. There is hardly any evidence that informs us of the historical facts of Vedic society, and therefore we can only speculate with great care from the content and language of the Vedas, the only source material. In addition, during the extended period in which the Vedic texts were gradually edited and supplemented, people moved geographically over a wide area, and the power structures of social groups and schools constantly changed. To examine such a complex series of events and obtain a more accurate historical picture, I thought it would be useful to combine philological study and visualization to create a framework for discussion. So I launched this data science collaboration project. Our most important objects of study are the Maitrayani Sanhita, Kartaka Sanhita, and Taittiriya Sanhita. So we call them MSKs, TS, which are thought to have originated from the same group and produced at about the same time from approximately 900 to 700 BCE. They are records of ritual discussions that played a central role in the development of Vedic rituals. These documents appear to have been shaped through mutual influence. The influence was each other of MSK's TS, as well as of two documents that are older than them, the Rig Veda and Atharva Veda, with two variations, Shaunaka and Paiparada. Recension, clarifying the influence relationship between those sources. So complex, this influence relationship will be the foundation of our quest to understand the development of Vedic literature and the society. The previous research on the formation of the Vedas and overview of our research were covered in last year's workshop. So I would like to proceed based on that. If you did not attend our presentation last year, please refer to the material from the last year. In our project, we mainly examined the following: relationship among the texts considering the mantra co-occurrence and similarity among chapters of the text using computational analysis of vocabulary. First, I will report on the study of relationship among the text based on mantra co-occurrence. A mantra is a ritual formula recited in ritual. It may appear in only one text, or it may appear commonly in several texts. The fact that it appears in common among texts can interpret it as that there is a relationship between these texts. Two texts which have only few co-occurred mantras can be observed as having far relationship. So the co-occurrence of mantras allows us to examine the relationship between the text. Bloomfield Vedic Concordance and the expanded version of Franciscini with electronic text cover almost all the mantras that appear in Vedic literature and index where they occur. That is the name of the text and location. Using this as a source data, we have developed a tool to visualize the relationship between two selected references. This is a visualization tool. I give the address. Web, the co-occurrence in two texts can be seen as a scatter plot and coordinate plot graphs. The axes are ordered by chapter number from the beginning to the end, from the beginning to the end, beginning to the end of literature. And you can see which part of the text are closely related to which part of the other. Now we give the internet link to the tool here, but there is something you need to pay attention to. The names of text are displayed in a table, and you can choose two. You can choose two. They are red and blue colors. If you click on this and then click another, then you can choose another text. So it will take some time for the graph to be fully displayed. So please wait for the full displayed condition. If you change the text so too quickly, so you will get bug. So please pay attention. So to this data, we have recently added the classification of literature, and you can choose literature that allows us to examine the data for specific literature. And we have also added numerical data to show the number of occurred mantras. This is an example. I choose Rig Veda and Maitrayani Sanhita and Pravargya literature. So here only mantras in the Pravargya chapters in the Maitrayani Sanhita that co-occur in Rig Veda. So with this function, we can examine the feature according to literature. Sometimes we may find problems with the data and need to resolve them. For example, when I was working on the Yajnavalkya chapter, the graphs showed a remarkably close relationship to the Rig Veda 7th book. But when I checked the original text, I didn't find many verses from the 7th book. It was very strange. A closer look at the data showed that the deepada in certain verses in Rig Veda 7, that is Yuyam Pata Swasti, was a refrain. That is a phrase that appears repeatedly. So that was counted at every repetition, in this case, 78 times. And this affects the graph. If we do not count the refrain, the relationship between Rig Veda 7 and the MS is not striking. Thus, it is important to check the original text and improve the data if necessary for a more accurate discussion. Using the function to choose each literature, I will here compare the Yajnavalkya chapter and the Agnichiti chapter. The Yajnavalkya chapter is a collection of hymns praising the gods. It's thought to have been composed in the late stage of MSK TS editing. The Agnichiti is a ritual performed by constructing a huge fire altar. It is considered to belong to the middle period of MSK TS editing. The point is to discuss the changes or differences in the influence of Rig Veda and Atharva Veda on these two rituals. If we display the Yajnavalkya chapter, so we can see that the MS incorporate many verses from Rig Veda and less from Shaunaka and less from Paiparada. Looking at the Agnichiti chapter, it is clear that there is influence from all sources almost at the same grade. In my presentation, influence of the Atharva Veda on Maitrayani Sanhita, I also noted that significant impact of Atharva Veda on the Agnichiti, and which is now visible in this graph. This is two graphs. Sorry. Yeah, this is two graphs of Rig Veda and Maitrayani Sanhita relationship. I compare the Yajnavalkya and Agnichiti. The Yajnavalkya chapter seems to have many quotations from Rig Veda 1 to 8 Kanda, and Agnichiti chapter influence from 10th Kanda, 10th book from Rig Veda is prominent, remarkable. Yes, yeah. sorry. For the agonitic chapter, let's also look at KS and TS. KS has one main agonic chapter and the additional section with agonic mantras at the end of the book, and that could be considered as later addition. KS and TS appear to be much influenced by all three sources, and the KS and TS seem to have a little more influence of Atharva Veda, Paiparada, ABP than Shaunaka. It is also clear that in the KS Big Veda 10's influence is in the main part, only in the main part, not in additional part. From this examination, we obtained the view of two different phases. One is a phase of the Agniciti Mantra chapter that is influenced from the cultural complex of Atharva Veda, Shaunaka, Paiparada, and Rig Veda 10. Another is a phase of Yajnavalkya chapter. It is strongly influenced by Rig Veda with little influence Shaunaka and Paiparada. The difference can be based on chronology. This examination can be used to infer each ritual's origin and identify the school's geography and hint at an increase or decrease in the school's influence. Next, I would like to talk about the similarity analysis among chapters using vocabulary, which is mainly being done by Yuki Kyogoku. This is a flowchart of our collaborative work. Helvig, Amano, and Veda specialist Fushimi create annotated text data in digital corpus of Sanskrit, and Kyogoku uses the data and does semantic analysis with word to back, etc. And from this data, Natsukawa makes mapping of chapters throughout dimensionality reduction. And using this mapping, I consider the composition process of the text and the relationship among the text. Yuki will tell us later what kind of analysis he's working on. Here I will discuss what the analysis aims to reveal. It aimed to give us a clue to consider the relationship between MS, KS, and TS. The relationship between these three has traditionally been thought of having a common prototype from which the MSKs branch out and TS belong to another branch. But in recent years, a new view of the relationship between the three texts has been mentioned, which is a close relationship between KS and TS. It is likely that MS-KS-TS relationship also underwent changes throughout their editing period. I think there are three periods. The period when MS and the KS started editing ritual explanations, TS did not join. In the period, second, when MS, KS, TS developed rituals in close relationship, and third period, KS and TS approached each other and MS started to take its own position. I hope that lexical analysis, such as with Soward, Tubek, Tracer, and others being done by our young members, Yuki Kyogoku and Somi Yagawa, can precisely determine the degree of similarity between MS-KS-TS chapters that helps to classify the chapters into the period. Now, let's move on. I would like to talk about the plan for our new project. In this new project, we would especially like to incorporate syntax analysis into the study of language layers. My previous studies have pointed out that certain syntactic structure, uses of particle, pronouns, and verb tense can be indicators of language stratification. One is about the common phrase, ya evam Veda, if he knows that. With this phrase, the accusative singular neuter or pronoun tat used adverbial then or therefore is used in some cases, or the particle have by consequently in other cases. An example for have by is salva havai asya blah blah blah, and for tat by example is tat evam yat veda babati atmana. I examined all examples for Ya Evam Veda in the Maitrani Sanhita, and the number of those with Havai colored with gray, and with tad colored with black, and having none of both colored with white, each chapter shows different rate of the usage. Some chapters have by dominantly, some chapters tad. So I classify the chapters into a group of by group and tad group, and I reflect this grouping to the process of composition of the text. This is my supposition of internal structure or process of composition of the Maitrani Sanshita. I suppose that the preference to by or tad can indicate faction that inherits its own tradition. Now I show another example, that is the ratio of the present tense in the ritual prescription. For ritual prescriptions, there are alternatives, present indicative, dadati, he gives, optative, dadiyat, he should give, gerundive, deyam, so x should be given. I think that the ratio of the present tense in the ritual prescription also reveals the characteristics of each chapter well. We actually see different ratios of the present tense according to chapter. Chapters with more instances of present tense for prescription are considered to be for the ritual, where the ritual regulations are standardized. To recognize or have the program recognize these features as indicators of linguistic layer, it is necessary to differentiate the function and the usage of the present tense in the data, because the present tense can be used to formulate not only a prescription, but various types of sentence, like a general statement and the result of ritual action. These are different functions of present indicative. He takes fire at night, Grifnati. This is prescription. And the others have action at night. This is general statement. And he overcomes the darkness with the light. This is the result of the ritual act. Typically, Brahmana or ritual explanation consists of prescription plus general statement or myth, and plus ritual or a result of ritual act. This is a minimum construction or also minimum unit of ritual explanation. For syntactic analysis of this, the Brahmana or the Vedic prose, such distinction of type of sentence is quite useful or important. The distinction between prescription and explanation of purpose existed in Indian tradition since ancient time. Sanskrit vidhi is prescription, and Altavada is explanation of so purpose or meaning. I think it is useful for us to introduce this view into our syntactic analysis. At first, also introduce it into our data. When we want to count only present verbs for prescription, we have to distinguish the functions of present and choose only the examples for the target function. So I think now that we can use TI marking up to distinguish the function in the form kind of present tense verb, present tense function, so prescription, or sentence type, so prescription or so. So I don't know much about TI, so I would appreciate your advice. And further, I would like to introduce another indicator that I think will be useful. This is in sentence describing the result of a ritual act. Whether the verb is present or aorist, and whether eva or va etat stand in the main sentence. The most frequent construction is eva with present, Jyotisha eva tamastarati, but less but frequent is va etat plus present, svam va etat devatam ban hayate. And less frequent, but eva with aorist, I think it is particular use in Maitrani Sanhita, this, ta eva vaga de ye no vasarat. And lesser va etat plus aorist agrahit. So ratio of these constructions can be useful indicator of linguistic layers, which construction is frequent in which chapter, in which text. Aorist in this function is, based on my experience, frequent in Maitrani Sanhita. So if we find chapters with many examples of aorist in KS and TS, we can probably judge these chapters as influenced from Maitrani Sanhita. So such examination can become possible. We probably need a further distinction that can be useful for our syntactic analysis. That is functions of particle eva. Eva is used to emphasize the foregoing word, just or only, but in sentence for result of Richard action, eva is rather adverbial modifier to the predicate of the sentence. So we should introduce the marking a function adverbial modifier that can be useful to make so universal dependencies also. So Vedic UD is discussed in an article by Helvig, Vedic Tree Bank. So please check it out. And eva in other type of sentence in the meaning, so just only, is adverbial modifier emphasis, adverb mod enf. So we can distinguish the examples of result of Richard. I indicated var etat as marker of result of Richard action. Etat is pronoun accusative singular neuter. In the usage of var etat in sentence of result, etat is used as adverbial and means in this way. The reference is the foregoing sentence. So we should describe the pronominal function as anaphoric, and the reference is previous sentence. This marking is so useful because etat can be used in various usages in other type of sentences. For example, at the next sentence, pranam va etat pashava pratidavan yat blah blah. And this sentence includes va etat, but not the sentence that we target. So this is different construction because etat in this sentence is related to the following yat sentence, relative sentence. So function here is cataphoric, not anaphoric, but cataphoric, and the reference is yat. So if we describe the function on the reference, the distinction between the sentence above and below is easier. So, or if we describe the sentence type as general statement and the result of Richard, we will not confuse these two sentences. So etat had three functions: anaphoric, cataphoric, and recognitional. So it is useful to describe functions to distinguish the target sentence type. And tat is another pronoun that is anaphoric only pronoun. Also tat is accusative neutral, singular neutral, and often used as adverbial, especially often in sentences for result of Richard action. And there are variations for where it comes in the sentence and what it is related to. The different kinds of positioning and usage of tat can be good indicator of linguistic layer. In the first example, na salvani saha yajni aidani prafritiani manusham tat kriyate. Tat then is in the second position of the sentence, and the foregoing sentence is a ritual prescription, and the tat then is related to this prescription. So I support reference is previous sentence prescription. In the second example, tato deba abavam praparasias aslas tatyad. This tat is related to the foregoing sentence that includes God's myth. The god became winner, the asura faded away. Tat, so, or therefore, indicates the connection of the myth to the result of the ritual. In this case, tat stands in the opening position, and reference is previous sentence and myth. This is another usage. In this example, tat stands at the second position in the sentence that consists of yat-tat construction. Here, yat-tat construction. Yat-tat is when, and them. Tat in this sentence is related to the foregoing relative sentence. So the reference is yat. So there are different kinds of usage and position, and they can indicate linguistic features of each chapter of the text. So now the next question is how we utilize this detailed syntactic analysis. I hope the age estimation program could utilize such examination, and I think of also direct visualization of such features. This is visualization in the form of a distribution map, which I first created in 2014 by quantifying the sentences in each chapter of a text, creating lines and accumulating them. We can see the text as a map. If we mark the places where a particular linguistic phenomenon appears, we can visualize the characteristics of each chapter. I drew this by hand at that time, and it is very, very simple idea. But for me, it is still the ideal visualization form to observe the internal structure of the text. In the future, I would like to develop a tool to automatically create this kind of visualization form from annotated data. This is the final slide. I talk about a future task of the project, that is a geographer wanted. I drew already this kind of localization of Vedic text and schools, but this localization is not based on knowledge of actual geography of North India. I tried to clarify the relationship of the text, then get a relative position. So based on this, a possible next step is to connect this relative position to actual geographical localization. So it is necessary to introduce geographical knowledge and possibly archaeological findings into our research. I look forward to cooperation of geographers or archaeologists who are interested in this project. This is all of my report. Please enjoy the following presentations, and I hope you to join the discussion later. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'll be chairing the first session.
Okay.
So thank you for the nice presentation, Dr. Amano. And do you have any question or comments? Or
Professor
let's move on. So if you have any question, please unmute and directly ask to the Amano sensei.
Hi, Nirmala.
Just a minute. Just a
I
minute.
hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay. Just a minute. Hello, can you hear now?
Yes.
Just one question. One of my students, he has translated into Marathi some portion of the Kanva Shatapatha Brahmana. At that time, we found that the Madhyandina Shatapatha Brahmana and Kanva Shatapatha Brahmana, the grammatical features exactly are opposite. For example, if aorist is used in Madhyandina Shatapatha Brahmana, present tense is used in Kanva Shatapatha Brahmana. So if such a situation occurs in any text, so how to decide whether one form is borrowed from the other or some form is the older one? How to decide? That was the question. The similar question was about the dative and genitive. So if one text uses dative exactly in the same context, in the same similar sentence, the other text use genitive. If the other text uses genitive, then, for example, Madhyandina Shatapatha Brahmana, if uses genitive, then Kanva Shatapatha uses dative. Exactly opposite position is there. In such a situation, how to behave? So this workshop, I think, will be helpful for me it will guide me in future direction. Thank you very much. So you can answer me at any time. It is not, I am not in a hurry.
Okay. Sorry, you mean that grammatical, dialectal differences, Madhya and the Kanva in Shatapatha Brahmana?
No. What I mean, you have analyzed it in a different way. No doubt, this is very much useful. But suppose one text uses aorist, another text uses present tense.
Yes.
Text A uses aorist, text B uses present tense. And in other situation, text B uses aorist and text A uses present tense.
Yes.
So how to decide the chronology of these two texts on the basis of grammar?
I think it is not only a chronology, but so dialectal, or the so preference of authors or schools. And I think my Translation preferred to aorist, but it is not also absolutely chronological, but dialectal, I think.
No. What I mean, exactly opposite is used in certain cases. In certain cases, the other thing is used. If text A uses aorist, text B uses present tense. In certain cases. In other cases, text B uses present tense, then text A uses aorist. So exactly opposite in the same text.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it exists, yes. Yeah.
So in such a situation, how to decide whether B has borrowed or A has borrowed?
Sorry, this is not so difficult to answer for the question.
Therefore,
can we discuss?
Yes. You can answer me at any. This was puzzling us.
Yeah, I will write you.
Okay, no problem. No problem. So this is a problem, and you can solve it if you can solve it with data science. It's good. We can. So I told at that time. This was 5 years back. So I told him that you have to decide the frequency of the forms. So Madhyam Dina Samhita, if frequently uses aorist, then it is a style of Madhyam Dina Samhita. So this is how I think data science will help us in such situation. This is what I think. Since you have worked, I have asked you. We can discuss it later. No doubt.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So I will write you later. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you for the question. And I can see the Rizania is raising the hand. So please ask.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
That's okay. Thank you very much for your fascinating presentation. I'm very interested in your work because of a project which we have on the Middle Persian text. More or less the aims are the same. My question is, how did you recognize the significance of some morphological or syntactical features which you presented here? For example, the presence indicative. Have you derived this from your philological knowledge or from data?
Yes, from my philological knowledge. I translated my Translation and I noticed that this chapter has many or more examples for presence than other chapter. So during my translation, I noticed that. And after that, I counted the examples and I visualized.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. And it's time to move the next speaker, I think. So thank you, Amano sensei.
Thank you so much.